everyone. How is everyone doing today? I am loving this youthful energy in the room. It's great. Okay, now I'm also 19. I'm a student like all of you. And I'm sure that you've probably all heard the statement that you can make an impact. Honestly, I just thought people said it because it sounded good. I never knew or understood how I, 1 in 2 billion iGens, could make an impact. Growing up, I watched celebrities and actors I adored stand up for what they were most passionate about. And I associated the ability to make change with being famous. As I got older, I saw the impact of policy and regulators and associated impact with a top-down approach of power. A few years later, I learned about the influence of the super rich and associated change with wealth. But then, something interesting happened. Someone told me that I had changed their life and asked me how they can make an impact on the lives of others. That was the first time I realized that change might not have to come from power or fame or wealth. Change might stem from a catalyst, an ability that everyone has within themselves. And when that catalyst is unleashed, that person unlocks their ability of influencing the lives of people around them. That conversation made me realize everyone has the possibility to make an impact, to make a change on others. I started thinking about how I could answer her question about how she could make an impact. I knew it couldn't be hard. I just needed to find the rhythm. I kept pacing until I stumbled upon the golden recipe. Shoes! Bet you weren't expecting that one. Running shoes have a 3-step mantra. Fit, tie, fly. Okay, everyone, say it with me. Fit, tie, fly. One more time. Fit, tie, fly. Epic! Okay, fit, you have to make sure that the shoe size aligns with the size of your foot. Tie, you secure your laces and commit yourself to the action of running. Fly, you're ready to run fast and overcome obstacles. And now I had just found the answer to her question. Just like running shoes, making an impact has its own 3-step method. Fit, find your North Star. Before archers set a target, they have to know what they're aiming for and why they're aiming for it. Just like an archer, the first step to making an impact is fitting to and finding your North Star. Your North Star is what drives you, your mission in life, what you care about, what challenge you're aiming to solve. It's more than, I like singing. It's, I love the happiness people feel when listening to their favorite song. Or more than, I enjoy teaching. Rather, I love seeing the moment when someone finally believes they can do it. Do you see the difference? Your North Star is more than an intent. It's a purpose. Because throughout the journey, you may feel moments are tough or be unsure of whether you're making the right decision. A North Star is a lighting guidehouse kind of driving us through and making us distinguish what decisions we can make or not. And I'm going to give you an example. Let's say your North Star is standing for information transparency and truth through open reporting. And so you're an upcoming journalist. You get your first huge opportunity to conduct an interview with your favorite singer and find him wonderful. He even invites you to the front row of his concert next week. You speak to his friends and colleagues, and they're all gushing about his incredible songwriting skills. Finally, you interview his sound technician and find out that he's been stealing smaller artists' music and rebranding it as his own. Now we're stuck in a dilemma, and the deadline to submit the article is in 10 minutes. As a person, you love this singer, And exposing this fact seems uneasy. I mean, what's the point? You won't get invited to his concert, and even if we do leave this part out, it's not lying, it's just not sharing information. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Plus, what if the sound technician was lying? On the other hand, you feel a bit obliged to report everything you've heard. This is tough. What are we meant to do? Your North Star is standing for information transparency. According to your North Star, you should include the sound technician's perspective. Yes, you can't verify if the sound technician was lying or not, but your North Star indicates that you tell the truth by giving your readers the facts and making them make up their mind on their own. If your North Star was, I only report what I have triple verified to be correct, then you wouldn't have included the sound technician's perspective in the article. The conclusion is your North Star matters because it guides you in these difficult decisions. Neither one is right nor wrong objectively, but there is a right and wrong for you at that moment, and that distinction becomes clear by following your North Star. Tie. Before going on a run, you tie both your shoes. That's why there are two aspects to tie. Now, if we do take a kind of closer look at a shoe, we see that it has many holes in different places, and your laces go through each one, tying all of them together in a single coherent thread. Just like that, similarly, in your journey of creating an impact, there will be various elements, and you need to create a framework and supporting structure, tying all of them together towards your North Star. Now, these elements or holes are things like the people you keep around you, the books you read, the physical and mental state you keep yourself in. And these will all be different and tailored to your North Star. A sports person's aspect of physical health may be different to a computer scientist, for example. A sports person may focus more on building strength, whereas for an applied and computer scientist, fingers are where the magic happens, so they'll focus more on keeping the physical state of their fingers safe when cutting vegetables, for an example. So the first aspect of tie is arranging all of the circumstances and dimensions around you in a single thread towards achieving your mission. The second aspect is commitment. Tie yourself to your mission. Once you find a goal, settle and work on it for a little while. This reaffirms to yourself that you know what you're doing. It shows that it's not a fluke, it's a value system you believe in. This sense of intention is seen by others too. It's hard to develop trust and confidence from someone who says one thing one day and switches completely the next. It looks like they aren't convinced themselves about a goal, and if they aren't convinced themselves, no one else will be. Commitment is an important part of impact because it does two things. It instills a sense of focus within yourself that you know your North Star, and it shows the people around you that you really do know what you're doing and what your objectives are. Even if you fail, it shouldn't stop you from honoring your commitment. Today's biggest leaders and entrepreneurs failed at 50 things before they succeeded. But no one remembers or recounts their failures. We only recall their success, and their failures only amplify how determined they were to achieving their mission. And that's how their story inspires and ultimately leaves an impact on us. I think we've all heard the stories about how Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination, Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, and how Jay-Z created his own music label after being rejected from others. Staying committed after a failure actually boosts impact. Michael Jordan said himself that, "I have failed over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." This is just one example about how impactful failure can be. Fly. Overcome or fly over your fears. This may be the hardest one of all, but crucial. Fear is the most crippling and debilitating emotion we can have. The what if can be scarier than the when. When you have a North Star, a mission, and are committed to it, the last piece, which usually gets in the way, is fear. But to make an impact, you can't let it. The fear of what will people think, what if I fail, or even who will I become, is something which has to be overcome in your journey of creating an impact. And this is why this emotion can be so dangerous. Fear often comes at the very last stage of creating an impact, and it, as a single emotion, can put thousands of hours of your work down the drain. There are countless upcoming artists who put in hundreds of hours into making a song, but are overtaken with fear and self-doubt when it comes to the last stage, to pressing the final button to publish. The most common fear is judgment by those around them. The sad part is, the spark that motivated them to put in all the hard work remains, the North Star stays, the commitment has already been honored, but fear gets in between them and their success. I have a challenge for you. Here's how we can all start early to make sure we do overcome fear if it does creep in at the very last stage. And this is something we can, and honestly all should do, because it's empowering. Every week, try and do something which you're a little bit afraid of, but excited about too. This could be something like complimenting someone at school who you don't really talk to, or thanking someone for something they've done, but you've never really gotten the chance. Now you might be thinking, Avanti, like, what is this? Listen, I have definitely had this fear before. Raise your hand if you have. I have definitely had this fear, because it's like, it might be a bit awkward, like what? No, that fear has to be overcome, and it's a really good thing to train us. By the way, it's a real thing, which most people are afraid of, and researchers call it the gratitude gap. You can look up more later. Okay, so now that we have our 3-step method, let's move on to the vehicle. Your vehicle which makes you have your avenue of impact, what you will really use to make change. Starting out at 8, I was a coach at an organization that taught children to code, which inspired more girls to take an interest in technology. I went on to meet some inspiring people like Randy Zuckerberg at 11 and speak at various global events, which I'm lucky to do now as well at 19. So, in a way, kind of STEM and teaching children to code was my avenue of impact. More recently, I launched an organization to empower youths across the world to get involved in the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Your avenue of impact can have many forms. Mine started with STEM, and we're in Tech Talks for Girls, so we're basically here to encourage you all to take up STEM. And it's a smart choice, because the world needs technology now more than ever. However, you can choose any avenue you like, anything that you find inspiring that aligns with your North Star. And to start, it doesn't even have to be intimidating. In fact, you don't even need to start out with the mission of changing other people. You just live by making the change within yourself. I have a question for you. Have you ever had a conversation with someone who's super dynamic and energetic, and you leave the room feeling energetic and passionate yourself? Raise your hand if you have. I definitely have. Yeah, I see a lot of hands in the room. Okay, now a slightly harder one. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and all they're doing is complaining and you left the room feeling drained yourself? I also have. So what does this really show us? It shows us that the way we carry ourselves matter. Our attitude matters. And you do have an impact on others. So let's say that your North Star is making the world a bit more joyful and optimistic. So by being joyful and optimistic yourself, you convey that sense of optimism to the people around you. And it works the other way too. After having that conversation with someone who's super dynamic and energetic and passionate, that sense of energy gets passed on to us, which we bring through our own conversations and pass on to others. It's a perpetual cycle. So, as I said, that if you're passionate about something, about making a change, the best way you can start to be a change maker is living by and through that change yourself. As one person making a change, let's say you influence 5. Now, those 5 go on to influence another 5 and another 5, and see how it keeps spreading? When you're just 3 layers deep like we are here, you've already reached 125 people. The core idea behind this is you just need to plant a seed to spark change. In this example, my seed was being joyful. And once that seed is planted, it will grow and spread, and you don't need to worry about that. It'll happen naturally. By just focusing on the 3 core steps of creating impact, finding and then fitting to your North Star, tying yourself to a mission, and arranging all of the circumstances and situations around you to do so, and overcoming or flying over your fears, I know each of you in the room have the power to plant a seed of change. So today, on the TEDxLuxembourgCitySalon stage, I would like to pass on the message to every one of you in the room that you can make an impact. Thank you.